Hello. Hello, listeners. Welcome again to this episode of the Naked Coach Collective podcast. Today you have Ian and myself, Dee, and we are talking about NLP. Now, most of you, if you're in the coaching world, will have heard the term NLP before, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. We've touched on it before, haven't we, Ian?
I think so.
Yeah, we've touched on it a little bit, but we haven't really dedicated too much time to it. But it's such a huge subject. I think it's about time. What do you reckon?
Absolutely. Let's go.
so, I was thinking, well, why don't we just have a little overview of why NLP, some of the techniques, some of the power that it might have in helping in your coaching or in your self-development even. And I think we can start by looking at some of the basics, like, for example, neuro-linguistic programming, just the words, you hear programming and you think, oh my God, somebody's going to do voodoo on you or put you to sleep and tell your mind to do all sorts of things. Does that come to
Well,
you?
this is good. This is one of the things I was going to say, actually. So,
Yeah.
when I've never been in the coaching industry previously, and you hear NLP, neuro linguistic programming, I always associated it with people kind of tricking you into doing stuff. Tricking you into doing things for them, signing up for stuff. So I always associate it with like a sleazy kind of technique to get people to do stuff for you. So what actually is it from kind of the coaching perspective and how we use it as coaches?
Yeah, I mean that I think I probably thought that as well years ago when you first hear it, because it's that sort of, you hear the neuro and you think, oh my God, my brain, they're going to mess with, and then programming. It's what you see sci-fi movies are made of, aren't they? Really, but your neuro is just your nervous system and how your brain deals with the information that it's subjected to all the time, every single second and millisecond that you're alive. And the linguistic part of it is obviously language, but also the non-verbal way that we communicate, body language, eyes, expressions, everything is in the linguistic part of that. And the programming is not what you think, right? So programming is, for example, you have learned to behave in a certain way. All your life, you've done things in a certain way. You might have developed and changed, and obviously you will have developed and changed over the years, right? So this is your own internal programming of how you do things, how you see things, how you interpret things. And what NLP will do is identify those, and where you might want to make some changes, can introduce ways of changing how you have programmed yourself over the years. We're going to come more into that as well, but that's basically the trying to sort of bring you away from the scary they're going to mess with my brain stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like that, no. And I think hypnosis and all these things can come under this umbrella. So but even in hypnosis, it's never really like David McKenna. It's not David McKenna, is it?
I know who you mean, but I can't remember his name. David?
It's not David. It's a McKenna.
I don't know.
Paul McKenna.
Paul McKenna.
Paul McKenna. It's not like Paul McKenna on the TV, right? So, so one of the building blocks of NLP is understanding that the map is not the territory. This phrase was coined in the 1930s, and it means that what we have in our minds of the world and what we see in our minds of the world is not the world itself. We know that an A to Z is not the actual road, right? It's just a representation of it. Or a sat nav, or an A to Z or a sat nav. I don't know. Some people may not even know what an A to Z is. Do you know?
Yeah, of course I bloody know. Sat navs weren't around when I was younger. Jesus Christ.
So the actual
Do you know what an A to Z is, Ian?
Well, listen, I'm telling you.
Guy who used to drive for a living.
I did.
No idea.
I think if you're younger than about 25, you might struggle.
I know. Kids.
No? Anyway, look, the actual road, the actual territory is so much more. And you the representation that you have, the map that you have in your head is just doing what your brain does best, which is taking in all the information, all the stimulus that's coming in, and representing it so that you can find it useful. For example, what was it? 11 million bits of information is coming into stimulus is coming into your brain at any 1 second.
Something like that. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's a phenomenal amount. And, I actually stopped to think about, not obviously count 11 million, but stop to think about it for a second there. Everything that I can see, if I were to stop and label it, it would run into hundreds and thousands, right? And that's
the thing. So it's taking in you on my screen, it's taking in me on my screen, it's taking in this screen, it's taking in the bookcase that's at the side of me. I'm seeing the bookcase in the background. But then it's not just that, it's the colour on your screen, the colour on my screen, the colour of this screen, what's actually on my screen here, what the colour of the books in the back. It's everything, and all the sounds and the smells, everything. It gets
the fan,
crazy.
All of that, and your brain just cannot handle it. So it has to represent it to you in a way that you can handle, right? Which is only about 40, 50 bits of information, and most of those are automatic anyway. That's another topic, right? So most of the stuff that your brain's actually noticing is automatic, but we will come to that in a minute. So what we'd say is that your brain manages to do some incredible things, and within NLP we're looking at deleting information, distorting information, and generalizing information. So you can say you're driving along in your brand new car, which happens to be a brand new car.
Oh, you want to know what kind of car I've got, or what kind of car I dream of having?
What was your dream car?
I don't know. I'm not massively into cars.
Let's do a yellow Skoda, right?
Oh God, no. Like a Land Rover type car.
So
something like that.
And you've gone for that. You've gone for that really cool kind of deep burgundy color. I don't know. Have you got a deep? Do you get a Land Rover in deep burgundy? Anyway, you've never seen a burgundy Land Rover driving up and down your streets your whole entire life. You go out and buy one, and then tomorrow you notice 4. Right? So all of a sudden your brain is geared. Those 4 were on your streets yesterday and the day before, but you never spotted them. But now your brain is geared to notice, and your brain is now not deleting out that information.
Yeah, a good example of this is when you hear a word for the first time, thinking that you've never heard it previously, and then you just can't stop hearing it. Like you'll notice it again and again and again in the days that follow.
Such as?
I don't know.
I thought you had a word in your mind.
I haven't got an example, but I just recall being in that situation.
Well, yeah, I mean that's very true. Another example would be like you walk down the same high street every day for 20 years, and then you get a dog, and then you notice the vet shop, then you notice the shop that sells play toys for vets and for dogs, and it's
play
like
toys for vets.
Is that a whole other episode, or is that a whole other podcast?
Where is this going?
Play toys for dogs, right? So you see, you're noticing now, and your brain knows that dogs are important to you, so you see the things that are related to dogs. Okay, so that's your deletion, right? Ian, stop it.
I'm sorry.
Honestly.
It's play toys for vets. Oh, yes, I'm very immature. I know.
I'm going to mute you. Shall I mute you?
Yeah, go on.
All right. So another thing that your brain does, because of all this masses of information is coming in, is that it distorts the information. So actually, you know, when you have eyewitness statements, and it's pretty well established that eyewitness accounts can be really dodgy at the best of times. So this is because your brain has distorted what's come in, especially, you know, visually. You've seen somebody with brown hair, but you just know lots of people with blonde hair, or your brain chooses to see what it chooses to see, and it may not always see what is the actual thing. Another example, I mean, I was sort of thinking about this. I think, well, maybe going back to the map example, if we have a grid, a tube map, you know, what tube map has got the same gap between each of the stations, but there isn't the same distance between all of these places in reality.
Hang on. On the tube map, is it genuinely the same distance between each station?
A lot of them are, aren't they?
Like on the map, have they put it the same distance?
Well, similar.
Did not know that. Learn something new every day. But yes, I get what you're saying. It's not actually that distance in.
I'll be honest, I haven't ever really measured the gaps between, but I kind of think, say you've got the central line, you know, it's running across the middle of London. And the distance between Tottenham Court Road and Oxford Circus is greater than the, you know, whatever, right?
I get what you're saying.
Right, yeah. It's like,
sorry.
So anyway, so your brain is now distorting information as it comes in as well, because it aligns with what you already know, is with your experiences, the way you think about things, and you will, you know, you'll find that your experience of something is not the same as the person sitting next to you. Your experience of somebody coming and singing on the train when you're on it may not be the same, will not be the same as the person sitting next to you, because your brain is deleting and distorting all this information as it's going in.
I've got a very good example of this distortion and also being aware as well. They're kind of two linked together. So if you ever seen the FedEx sign, the FedEx logo.
I know the company, I don't know the logo.
Well, we'll get the logo up on the YouTube show for you. You can't, listeners won't be able to see it. But next time you see the FedEx logo, have a look between certain letters and you will see a white arrow.
Right.
And once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. Your eyes will go to it every single time.
Okay, I've got to do this right now. Hold on. Ah, there it is.
Yeah.
Between the E and the X.
Yeah.
It's an
My
arrow.
eyes, when I first heard that, just now constantly go to that straight away. And it's, I don't know if you remember, some years ago now, there was this thing online, you know, these trends, and it was like was it a dress? Was it gold, or was it gold and white, or was it black and blue? The stripes on the dress. Do you not remember that?
I don't remember that.
It was so weird. Honestly.
Blue dress.
Prancing around. There was like a picture of a dress online, and I saw, I think, if the memory serves me right, black and blue stripes on the dress. People who were stood right next to me saw gold. And I'm like, how is that possible? I don't know what it was, but it was so freaky.
It's your brain distorting it.
I'm going to Google it now to see what it was.
Your own history. I love that. I don't know that, but it's interesting. Send me info. And also, okay, so we've got delete, we've got distort, and we've got generalizing. So when your brain has to generalize information, otherwise it just cannot rethink of everything from scratch every time some stimulus comes in.
Sorry, I was just looking at the I just found the dress thing. I'm going to show you a picture of it. I want you to tell me what picture you see.
Go on.
What colours you see.
Okay. Gold and white.
To me, that is blue and black.
Show me again.
It's so crazy.
Show me again. This way a bit. Over a bit. It's gold and white.
It's blue and black to me. Don't get it.
Okay,
Don't get it, D.
Are
you see
sure?
these other pictures.
What colour is that?
Green.
Okay.
I'm not colourblind. But you see like these other pictures, don't you, where someone sees one particular thing where another person sees another. I can't think of a specific example, but
it's the pictures of Freud, isn't it? You know, the old lady, the young lady, the vase and the faces.
Yes,
the dancing stick men, and that's
classic Freud.
So why is it important, right? Why is it important that we understand that our mind is not the actual territory? You think, well, you got this far, you haven't worried about it. Why is it important? And the reason is because there's just so much there. And when you start looking at self-development, personal development, or coaching, working with other people who have got ingrained, very, very deep-rooted behaviors that they might want to think about, that obviously they're talking to you or developing themselves to think about changing, then understanding that actually what they are perceiving in their minds, in their brains, is not the full story, and getting them to understand that that is not the full story. So there is more that you can change, you can add, you can take away to create a different sense of your reality. And then when we go into that, we will start talking about reframing things, and we start talking about just how you can change behaviors. So understanding that actually, hold on, I don't see it all. I don't see it all. There is more. Go.
It can be quite eye-opening, like just understanding that there's so much that you don't even see on everything around you. It can be, I don't know, it's hard to describe from my perspective. I feel like it's, no, that's not the right word. I was going to say liberating then, but it's not. It's quite eye-opening, and I'm struggling to articulate.
You're right. It's eye-opening because it then allows you the choice to focus on something else.
It opens up the freedom of so many opportunities and possibilities, is what I'm kind of trying to say, I think. That you just weren't aware of, but are kind of staring you in the face.
Yeah. And you use that knowledge, right? You now use that knowledge to change the things that you focus on. So you have got your self-image is, say you've got poor self-image in the sense that you're not satisfied with the way that you look, and you are bombarded by the magazines, the perfect size to women, whatever they are, perfect skin, perfect whatever, and this is the only thing you see. And then you walk down the high street and you see that 99% of the women or men or whoever, they're all normal, like all of us. And then you see that one girl who is hot, and who you sort of think, oh my God, everybody else is gorgeous except me. And that is something that you can recognize within a coaching session, that, okay, so you deleted looking at all those other 1,000 people that you saw today. You distorted the image of the one person that you took in, and you generalized that everybody is gorgeous except you, or that perception of what you have as of beauty, right? So knowing that now, you can start making yourself aware that you need to be looking at everybody. If you're going to be drawing a comparison, which, people do, we do, but if that's where you're going to start building up on your self-worth and your self-image, you need to start looking a bit more realistically or in a different way to what's going on. So you walk out and you see and you clock every woman, man of every size, of every whatever it is that you put as your beauty traits, and you start understanding that actually what you were deleting and distorting before has now changed.
Yeah.
So now this person who has the low self-esteem, low self-worth is now noticing that actually, rather than being completely different from what they think everybody else is, they're building up to be in the same group. And that's a
Isn't
good
it?
start.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't it weird how we use comparison for ourselves? It's so crazy. In any situation, you'll compare yourself to someone who's had years more experience, is miles better at whatever it is, and you think that you should be where they are. And when you're not where they are, you don't get the same results as what they get. You just really hard on yourself. It's so strange why we do that.
I think it's, you know what, is it? I'm a bit reluctant to say it's a human trait. I think it's a British trait. I think it's Americans aren't really like that in general, are they? If they compare themselves to someone, they compare themselves favorably. Often.
Yeah.
Right?
Cocky bastards.
That's just my limited experience. But, I think it's important to think, okay, there are cultural practices, cultural norms, and that you've just touched on a British one, I think is very much a way of saying, well, you put yourself down. But I think it would be quite good in this instance, you can start sort of thinking about, well, actually look at yourself as a friend would.
Mm.
In that scenario, your friend would highlight to you, that bloke's got 20 years more experience than you, but you've got a more analytical mind than that person. You can see, look at everything they've done. They've done it always in the same way. Or so look at yourself as a friend would. All right, so your mind knows that you haven't really got the reality, that your reality is different from everybody else's, because it's based on how your brain chooses what to focus on, how your brain chooses how to intake the information that's coming in. And you could be a twin, having been brought up in the same house all your life, and still your brain would be representing to you in a different way, to your twin.
Yeah.
It's so incredible.
Yeah, it's weird how some people, twins are a great example, can have exactly the same upbringing and just have completely different results if they went through exactly the same thing as well. It's so weird, but it's just that internal processing of the world.
I love twin studies. They're so interesting. Yeah, it's just
I've never dived into
so phenomenal.
them.
You just kind of think, well, how can they? But it goes back to that nature nurture debate, doesn't it, as well? Because you're even though they're, especially the ones that are from the same, what do they call them? Fraternal, not fraternal, the other ones. The two types of twins, right? Those from one egg, those from two eggs.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Educate me.
Oh no. Anyway, so we figured out that our brain is an amazing thing, right? And it does so much for us. So how do we use this to our benefit, and which is that we now understand that we can choose what we focus on. So let's go one step further. Okay, let's go one step further. Now, if we we're choosing what we focus on, how do we know that we're focusing on the right things?
Mm.
That was a real question.
Oh, you're asking me. I thought you've been following up, answering your own questions so much. I was just waiting. I'm sat here like, well, go on then. Tell
No,
me.
go on. No, go on.
In terms of, I don't know about NLP wise, for me, but how do you know what you're focusing on is the right thing? Such a minefield of a question. Absolute minefield of a question. So you have to figure out your core values to help you decide whether it's the right thing. So you need to assess your goals, what do you want from life, and then you need to dig deep into why you want those particular things and get to your core values, and then assess whether the goals that you did have are actually aligned to those core values. And there's obviously ways that you can do that. And I mean, the simplest way is, what do you want? Why? Or what do you want? What will that get for you? What will that get for you? What will that get for you? Which is a classic thing that I go through with clients a hell of a lot. And there's also, so you may get to a point where you think that you've got an understanding of what you want and what your core values are, and you think that these things are aligned. But then as you go in through, you may start to question whether it is right for you. And a good way of looking at this is saying, so if in 10 years' time you don't achieve the goal, would you still have enjoyed the process? So if in 3 years' time, if you have not achieved your goal, would you still have enjoyed the process of trying to achieve that goal? If the answer is no, then maybe it's not the right goal.
It's an absolutely valid point, because it's like, you know, the journey is part of the goal, isn't it? In a lot of cases, well, it should be, because sometimes your goal might take years to get to.
Yeah, exactly.
You spent your time getting to achieve your goal, and you're still not happy. So when you set a goal, it would be a good idea to do what you said. You know, why do you want it? What will that give you? What will that allow you to have? Where will that take you next? All these sorts of questions that are worth doing. And you'll come to, for example, we can try it now. You know, Ian, what do you want?
Well, okay, so I've been through this exercise, so I kind of know what mine are. So, but I'll kind of take you through the different levels of what my answers were to these questions when I went through this particular kind of coaching session. So I was asked, obviously, what do you want? And I was like, well, I want to quit my job and create my own business and buy a big house and live by the lake.
Okay, so what will having a big house do for you? So I'm just
more space. I just like having space. I just like the idea of having a nice big house with lots of space and room for me and my partner and a dog, a little Milo.
And what will having that space give you?
We actually never went down this route, so I'm gonna.
Well, we're trying to get to your actual core value, right? So, you know, why is that space important? What will it give you?
I will feel. I won't feel as trapped or what's the word I'm looking for? Is trapped the right word?
I want you to try and keep it positive if you can. So
I'm trying to think of the right word to get me to that positive.
Keep going then. Keep thinking.
Trapped. What's the right word?
I'm not telling.
It begins with a C. Claustrophobic. So what's the opposite of claustrophobic? What would be the positive of claustrophobic? It's kind of like free and open and free. Is free the right word?
So having that space is going to make you feel free or give you freedom?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or something else?
It's not going to give me freedom. Well, it will to a certain extent. But it will make me feel more free than being in like this house that I'm in now, which is kind of small. And I feel like trapped in and claustrophobic, like I say. So I want to feel free, like I can breathe almost.
So that feeling free, what you can breathe. I'm going to take it for granted that you can breathe, right? So I'm going to just stick on the free. All right. So I can feel free, but I want you to dig a little bit deeper. What will feeling free do for you?
I feel like it would lift the weight off my shoulders. I'm not sure why.
Can you phrase that in a positive way as well? I mean, I know that is a positive, but yeah.
Yeah. I would have more energy to be able to focus without having, more energy to be able to focus
So
better.
having space will give you energy, and that energy will
Yes.
allow you to focus.
Yes.
So, okay, I'm just going to repeat that. So having space, big house, will give you energy that allows you to focus. Why will being able to focus? Why is being able to focus important?
Because then I can concentrate more on creating this business that I want to create to help people, but build a better life for me and my family.
So to focus and build a better life for you and your family, why is that important?
Because I want to because I love my partner and I want to provide the absolute best that I possibly can for her and for me.
And what will that do for you?
Would be happier. I'd feel like a better person. Like I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing.
According to him.
Me. It used to be that I was doing things for other people like my dad and what have you, but that's not anymore. But yeah, it's definitely for my version of my best self.
So we're thinking of our core, the values, the real serious values here. So why is it important that you do your best?
I have to.
What
It's
will
hard
it
to
give you?
explain.
It is hard to explain. It's actually very hard to explain, but what is it going to give you? So you've got the space, you've got the you've got the energy, you've got doing your best, you're providing. What is it going to give you?
Peace. Peace of mind in knowing that I did do my best at what I'm meant to do.
Okay. Peace is a fundamental core value. So everything that you do is to give you peace. Big house, lake.
So strange, because when I went through this exercise previously, we never focused on the big house thing. And this wasn't with yourself, obviously. We never focused on the, oh, I'd like to buy a big house. It was, I want to quit the job. And that led back to peace as well, but peace in a different way, slightly different way. So that was peace of, there's no fog of noise in my head. So it's almost like a peace and quiet and a relax of the stresses in the mind. And it's just pure peace from that perspective. Whereas this is a peace of mind in a different way. So strange.
And your life is going to be made up of lots of different things, because you've got your work element, you've got your family life. You're going to get peace if you give your family what you want to give them, and that, you know, you may feel they deserve it, or whatever it is, right? You know, that's going to give you a sense of peace. And just to follow on a little bit more, so we don't cut it short, you know, why is having peace important to you? In any, you can choose one or other of the ways that we've described what peace means, or all of it. Why?
The reason I focus so much on the peace of mind with regards to the quiet and solitude and peace is because it's so freeing. And just it's so hard to explain if you've never had such a busy mind of absolute foggy buzzing noise. It's like a physical buzzing in your head. It's so weird and it's hard to describe. But when it's like when I go off into the mountains and I go hiking and everything, it's so strange. It's like it literally just drains away.
Nice.
It's an incredible feeling. That is the main one, purely because it's such a it's it's hard to explain. It's like a feeling of just the noise just washing and draining away. It's so good.
You touch on this in your book. You know, so I'm giving you a little plug here as well. You know,
thank you. Yeah. What book's that?
What book's that? Was it Summit
to Freedom?
Summit to Freedom. SUMMIT, not something. You know.
Yeah, not Summit.
So just to finish this off, right? You know, this little pocket bit of coaching, right? You have your vision of giving up the job, big house by the lake, dog, and lovely little family living in peace and quiet, right? So this vision of yours, you know, is there anything that is it, are you feeling any kind of resistance at all? If you think about it, is there anything that's making you think, nah, that's not going to happen?
There is not a doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
It's just not a doubt in my mind about it.
Love it.
It's just so crystal clear, and it's kind of like, the best way I can describe it is when it was back in 2011, 2012, maybe. I was doing a job, living with some friends from uni, and we just got the map out one day and said, where should we go?
Yeah.
And from that moment, I had to go traveling. There was just no two ways about it. Not a doubt in my mind. I just had to do it. which I did for a year. Oh God, it was so good. But it was like a physical pull, like it was going to happen. There's just no question about it.
You made it happen, didn't you?
Yeah.
Made it happen. You realised
it wasn't without the sacrifice of living like a hermit for a year to save up as much money as I possibly could. So I literally didn't do anything for a year. Moved back home to the mother's house, and God bless her, but Jesus Christ, that was horrible. Sorry for the blasphemy, our religious listeners.
You could change that around, couldn't you? You could say, your mum, bless her, gave you a warm place to hole up for a year while you saved it.
Exactly, and I'm forever grateful. He said through gritted teeth, because my God, moving back to your parents is a horrible experience. I honestly don't know how people, like, I worked with people in the 30s still living with the parents. I'm like, what are you doing? Just get out. Just stop it and get out.
I mean, look, if the mums are still cooking, washing, doing all of that, why would you move out?
No, have a bit of pride in yourself. Come on.
But it's nice to have the company, It's nice to.
Nah.
I believe in personal freedom and choice. Look, if they want to live with their folks at 30, what a lovely thing.
Nope.
But I mean, we are the only way.
You're speaking as a mother. You're speaking as a mother here, wanting your daughter to still be living with you.
Maybe. But it's going to be impossible. It's going to be more and more difficult for young people to get out there. So they're going to have to live in multi-generational families, and that's nice. I think that's nice.
I don't. Anyway, we went wildly off topic.
You knew from before we started, eliciting your value on that it would come down to peace at some point, because that's one of your core values, right?
I didn't know from the house side that it would. Strange how it did, though.
Yes, because what happens is this is not just a one and done exercise, right? This is an exercise that you can do repeatedly in different areas of your life. So where you talked about your family, right? So you did it with your family. You've done it with work in another situation. You can do it with your health. You can do it with all sorts of things. So, what do you want from your health? And you could say, well, I want why do you want it? What will it give you? Where will it take you? All those questions that you can keep going and going and going. And you're very likely to still come back to peace at some point.
Probably.
So, this is the beauty of really digging deep to elicit those values that mean something. And then,
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, because once you get to that, you now go back to your goal and you look at your goal, and is that goal going to ultimately give you peace? For example, you might say you're going to quit your job, but actually, right, quitting your job might fill you with all sorts of angst. And in that way, you then will start to realize that actually maybe that's not aligned with your core value. And you've got to align your goals with your core values, not your core values with your goals.
Yeah.
Right. See the difference, right? So it's important to get to the core values first, or at least then revisit your goals.
It's so important to dig deep like that, because, as I was saying, there's not an absolute doubt in my mind about what I want. Whereas if you don't dig deep, you might have those doubts, which means you're not going to follow through as much on the actions that you need to take to achieve those goals. And you might not open up your awareness to things that are around you because you're subconsciously not 100% in. Whereas for me, there's no doubt whatsoever in my mind of that goal that I've got. not one. Like I say, it's like it's almost like a physical pull of I have to do it.
Yeah.
Which is, and that kind of links back to the, pain of a situation will get you so far, but then you need that vision and that goal to kind of pull you the rest of the way. So that's what I try and explain when I'm saying it's like a physical pull now. I have to. It's just,
so it's more than a
is what it
physical
is.
pull, actually. You know what it is? It's your motivation. It's your raison d'etre, if you like. It's your...
Oh, you fancy pants. Oh, raison d'etre. Sorry, that's my awful French accent.
Yeah, don't have this lake in France, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
no, probably not.
anyway, going back to the point.
Baguette's thrown at me. I would have been complaining about that.
Oh, you're
Sorry.
so fun. Honestly, God, this is a serious topic, mate. You've just laughed your way all the way through it. It's... Okay, so we were going to finish off. I was about to make a point for which I've completely forgotten now.
You're welcome.
Yes. So okay? No, let me try and talk myself into this point that I was about to finish on making, which is you go through, you do this values elicitation, this thing, you do it for different areas of your life. You do it again in 2 or 3 months' time, and just give yourself time to think and to... You've done this so many times now, right? So absolutely 100%. But try and remember the first time that you did something like this, and where the eye openings, the moments that you thought, oh yeah, okay, that's interesting. So that's going to give me this feeling, and this feeling is going to make me feel like that. So imagine doing that with a client, or even yourself on a different area of your life that you may not have done before, and how powerful that is.
Yeah, for any listeners who haven't gone through that, it's so eye-opening. You're just like, oh my God.
Mm.
It's like, where's that been? Where's that come from?
It's a phenomenal thing, because we don't ever go that deep. You'll never go that deep with your friends in conversation. You'll never go that deep just with yourself while you're thinking about it. You might think, for example, you've got a health, you want to be healthier, so you can, you can be healthier, so you can run a marathon because you think that's what you want, and then you start doing this and you realize that you want health for, for something else, for being there for your children, or living longer for whatever reason. It's phenomenal, because there's so much going on up there in your head that you're so unaware of, and doing things like this just start to bring it out. And
Yeah. Well, isn't it like you only use like 10% of your brain or something like that?
I thought it was 5.
Wow.
Your conscious mind is about 5%, and your unconscious mind is the rest.
And your behavior is dictated by the unconscious mind as well, not by your conscious mind.
Exactly. And also because it's what you've developed, you've learned to do. Most of the things that you do on a daily basis are completely automatic, but that doesn't mean they have to be that way.
They are changeable, exactly, yeah. So the more you become aware, the more you're tapping into that subconscious, that unconscious part of the mind.
Yeah. It's huge. So I think we're going to call it a day there.
Thanks for that, Dee.
Oh.
Just opened up my eyes again.
So, what's that you said again?
All right, pack it in there.
Oh, bless. Right, listen. Okay, let's do it. We're going to wrap this up now, folks. Ian, until next time, be there.
Be bare.
And be naked.
Naked.